Welcome back to Go Figure School of Mathematics. Today we're on Lesson 70 based on Saxon Algebra Half, Rules for Addition of Signed Numbers. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks. Here we go. Okay, a warm-up problem. Sketch a number line and use arrows to add these numbers. Pause the video and you can put your answers in the quiz below and then press start when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, the first one, -8 plus -1. So we're going to start with a number line. Try to make it as straight as possible. We're going to start with 0 as our origin, and then we're going to use arrows. We're going to go -8 this way, and I can just mark this as -8 here. I don't have to do all of the dashes in between. And then we're going to add a -1. So we're going to go another -1 to the left, and that'll end us up at -9. Okay, and then our second one, -5 plus +7. So again, we'll start with the line. Our origin is 0. And we're going to first do our -5 arrow. So that'll land us at -5. And then we're going to do a +7 arrow. So we're going to go 7 that way. And we will end up at +2. So that answer is 2. Okay, our learning objectives today. We're going to list the rules for adding signed numbers, and then we will use those rules to add multiple signed numbers. So here's our rules. First, if the signs of the numbers are the same, all we need to do is add their absolute values and keep the sign of those numbers. So for example, here we have +7 plus +2. We add their absolute values, so 7 plus 2 is 9, and then of course we keep that sign +9. And we don't always need to write a plus sign in front of positive numbers. We could easily have just written 9 for our answer there. And likewise, if we have both negative numbers, so -7 plus a -2, we're going to add their absolute values. So their absolute values would be 7 and 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. And then we're going to keep the sign of those numbers. So we're going to keep the negative. So our answer here would be -9. Now, if the signs of the numbers are opposite, if they're different, we're going to subtract their absolute values, and we're going to keep the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. So here we have -4 plus 6. So their absolute values are 6 and 4. So if we subtract, 6 minus 4 is 2. And the sign that we keep, whether it's negative or positive, we look to the bigger absolute value. So 6 would be the bigger absolute value as compared to 4. So that means our answer is going to be +2. Now, if it were the other way around, where we have +4 plus -6, again, subtract their absolute values. 6 minus 4 is 2. And we're going to keep the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. So here's the 6 is the greater absolute value, so we're going to keep the negative sign. So our answer is going to be -2. And then when we're adding more than just two signed numbers, we're going to add from left to right, just like we're reading. So let's look at a couple examples. So we're going to add from left to right. So we start with -3 plus +2 is going to give us -1. Remember, we keep that negative sign because 3 is the bigger absolute value of 3 and 2. Keep the negative sign, so -1, and then we just copy down the rest of our expression here, plus -8 plus +5. And then we're going to add our -1 plus our -8 next, which gives us -9 plus +5. And now we can add the last two numbers. -9 plus a +5 is -4. We're subtracting the absolute values because we have different signs. There's a negative and a positive. So we're subtracting 9 minus 5 to get 4. And then we keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 9. So we're going to keep the negative sign, -4. Okay, again, adding from left to right, we're starting with -2 and +7. Here you notice that we don't have that plus sign in there, which is totally fine. So they're different signs. There's a negative and a positive. So we're going to subtract their absolute values. 7 minus 2 is 5, and we're going to keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which is 7. So we're going to keep positive. So it'd be +5, and then copy down the rest of our expression. And now we have 5 plus 3, which gives us 8, plus a -6. So now, since our signs are opposite, we subtract their absolute values. 8 minus 6 is 2. We're going to keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 8. So we have +2 as a final answer. And here are some practice problems for you to try. Pause the video and put your answer in the quiz that's below the video, and then press start when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, hopefully you got those all right. Let's go through these one by one. So we'll start with 11 plus -7 gives us 4. Actually, I'll just do that. 4 plus, copy down the rest of the expression, -6 plus 2. And now we're adding 4 plus a -6, which gives us -2 plus 2. -2 plus 2, they have opposite signs, so we subtract their absolute values. 2 minus 2 is 0, and obviously there's no sign for 0, so that's just 0. All right, -5 plus a -3, that gives us -8. The signs are the same. Then we copy down the rest of our problem. Plus 14 plus a -1. Add from left to right, so -8 plus 14, they have opposite signs, so we're going to subtract their absolute values. 14 minus 8 is 6, and then the sign is going to be positive. So we have 6 plus -1. Opposite signs, so we subtract. 6 minus 1 is 5, and we keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which is plus in this case, so 5 is our final answer there. And now we have -6 plus 9. That's going to give us 3. Then we have plus +2 plus a -4 plus a -3. So rather than just keep writing these out, we'll just do this mentally. So 3 plus a +2, that gives us 5. So then we have 5 plus a -4, that's going to give us 1. And then we have 1 plus -3, which is going to give us -2 as our final answer. So in summary, if the signs of the numbers are the same that you're adding, add their absolute values and keep the sign of that number. So if they're both positive, your answer is going to be positive. If the numbers are both negative, your answer is going to be negative. Secondly, if the signs of the numbers are opposite, if they are different, one's positive and one's negative, you're going to subtract their absolute values and you're going to keep the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. And then lastly, when you're adding more than 2 signed numbers, just add 2 numbers from left to right and keep going until you're down to one final answer. All right, that's all for today. Your assignment is to do problem set 70. A link to the textbook is in the video description. And if you have any questions about this lesson or the assignment, just put it in the comments below and I will respond to you. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.